Hello, welcome to my 2024 governor elections predictions. So let's start off with the safe races. So quickly for North Dakota, I don't know if y'all know this, but Doug Burgum actually could have ran for a third term. North Dakota actually passed a law that basically means that no governor can run for a third term, and Doug Burgum could have actually ran, and I actually really did want him to run just because he could have done it. But you got Kelly Armstrong, who he's North Dakota's at-large representative, and this is going to be a safe victory for the GOP, of course. Nothing out of this world there. And now let's go to Montana, where we have Greg Gianforte running for re-election, and he was seen as a good candidate for the GOP to run for Senate against Tester, but he decided to stay in the governor place and facing against Ryan Busey. And that's pretty much about it for that race. I expect him to win here by a decent margin, maybe even bigger than, probably even bigger than 2020. And it should be an easy victory for him there. Another safe state, we can go to Missouri. Let's go to that race, I should say. Missouri, you got Mike right here. I don't know if it's Mike Kehoe, or I'm just gonna call him Mike K, who's gonna run against Crystal Quaid. And I expect this race to I think it's gonna be redder than 20. Yeah, I think it's gonna be redder than 2020 because of how slowly the state has become a Republican stronghold. And I don't expect Democrats to do okay or decent here, so safe victory there. For a bit more interesting for Utah. In Utah, you got Spencer Cox, who is seen by a lot of MAGAs as being a bit of a rhino or being moderate because of his some of his libertarian leaning ideology, especially like being trans, or I should say like transgender adults or that sort of thing. So that's why some people hate him for that, and that's why he actually lost right here in the convention, but then went on to win in the general primary. So yeah, that tells you enough how much the GOP actually hates him. You got Brian King running as the Democrat nominee, who actually made an ad with the person who, with Phil Lyman, who won in the convention but lost in the primary. And that's a good ad, actually. I would recommend watching that ad because you rarely see that people from opposite sides of the political spectrum talk to each other and just hate on the same person. So that's why. But yeah. This should be a Spencer Cox safe win for him. Shouldn't have an issue. Probably goes to re-election by a huge margin. Not huge, by an expected margin. Now let's go to, I shouldn't say boring, but a race that doesn't have too much going right now. Delaware gubernatorial election, as many of you know. 2020, John Carney ran. And he is term limited, so he can't run for re-election. So it's probably going to be Bethany Long. Or should I just call her BHL or Matt Mayer? I know in the polling they're quite close, but there's still a lot of undecideds, and the GOP doesn't matter who the candidate is here, they're going to lose. So as you can see, safety victory for Democrats in this state. And a bit more interesting, let's go to West Virginia. I'm going to talk about Vermont, which is really interesting. I shouldn't say really, but just the person is interesting. In West Virginia, as many of you know, Jim Justice, the governor, is running for Senate. So Patrick Morrissey, or I should say, to replace Jim Justice, since West Virginia has term limits. Almost forgot about that. He's running as a GOP nominee, and he ran in 2018 for Senate, but he lost, of course, by a decent margin. And Steve Williams, Democrat nominee, but West Virginia Democrats are really heading towards the doomsday scenario, since it's a safe state, especially with Trumpism going on an all-time high in the state. It's going to be a safe victory for the GOP here. And lastly, for the last safe race, I should actually say, for Vermont. I know a lot of people would think that Vermont would actually be a safety state in the governor race, but Phil Scott, he's a center, I wouldn't say left, I would say like a center-right, center person, center politician, and he's by far the most popular governor throughout the whole country by far. His approval ratings are in the 70s and 80s, which is insane. And, he's going to run for re-election yet again, and the Democrats are going to lose yet again by a humongous margin. If we go here, I'm expecting same thing. Probably a win by like 40 to 45%, maybe even 50 to be honest. We could even see something huge like that. And he's got Phil Scott, easy re-election bid. He's going to win here humongously. And now let's go to the likely states. These are the states that could possibly be safe races, but by either some factor or some reason, they're not. For Indiana, so for Indiana, you got Mike Braun, who's not the most popular Republican already. He's actually the current senator of Indiana, but he doesn't like DC politics, so he's stepping back and running for governor. And as maybe you know, Eric Holcomb, he was the nominee back in 2020, and he won, of course. And you got Ronald Rainwater running yet again, which is really the main reason I have this race. Not one of the main reason, but one of the reasons I have this race dropping from safe R to likely R because of the Libertarians spoiling the GOP a bit here. You also got Jennifer McCormick, who actually used to be a Republican superintendent, by the way, and she's running as a Democrat because that's basically her best shot at becoming, or I should say, at trying to become the governor of Indiana. And she's pretty much, I wouldn't say like a McCain Republican, but it's like a old school conservative. And she's running, I wouldn't say, yeah. I mean, it's a bit weird when candidates switch parties just for electoral gain. But yeah, that's really the main reason why I think this election could be quite closer than what pollsters could think. Still, it's Indiana, so don't expect Democrats to somehow win here. I think RCP has this as likely R. Most people, I hit my mic, sorry about that. Most people have this as solid R, safe R, and I agree with that. I think it's going to be a likely R. Could easily be safe R, but just because of the Libertarians spoiling Mike Braun and the Democrats having a really good candidate, I think there's going to be a victory for Mike Braun and the GOP here by 10 to 12%, but still a GOP victory and probably one of the most interesting races in the governor elections this season. And now let's go to Washington. So Washington got Bob Ferguson, who is the Attorney General of the state, and almost forgot, Washington does not have term limits. So Jay Ainsley actually isn't running anymore because he's been the governor since 2013. I mean, even politicians get tired, man. And you got Dave Reichert, sorry, I'm terrible with names, who is a moderate Republican, so that's really the main reason why I don't have this as safety. And if we go to the polling, yeah, they have the blanket primary, which is a bit weird. It's just confusing, really. And the polling right here, there's no really huge pollster here, but it does show that Bob Ferguson should win here by a likely margin. You got undecided voters, and I expect Bob Ferguson to take over from Jay Ainsley. They have pretty similar ideologies, and shouldn't be an issue for Democrats. Should be easily winning here by, I'm guessing, like 10 to 12%, maybe a bit lower, but we'll see. Just a bit interesting. And now for North Carolina. So North Carolina, it's my favorite race in my opinion, just because it's also competitive in the presidential level. You got Josh Stein, who is another Attorney General. Yep, Attorney General under Roy Cooper, who is somewhat popular in North Carolina. He's a Democrat, by the way. And you got Mark Robinson here, who is the Lieutenant Governor of the state, since they run governor and lieutenant governor run differently. He is quite I wouldn't say gaffe prone, but he does have a lot of scandals, from taxes, abortion, statements on just anything you can think of that could disengage independent voters from a candidate. He has had those statements happen or been said, and that's why you have some people within that are his supporters already dooming about the election, even though the state is right-leaning. Let's see, let's go to polling. Toss up till D. it's fair. Previous elections, we've had Democrats be positive about a race in North Carolina, but then it just slowly turns out they lose in the end. But in this occasion, this is a very poor candidate by the GOP against a decent Democrat candidate. As of now, there's always a chance that there's a scandal, then, the rolls get a huge scandal, then things get even or whatever. That could also happen, but I don't think that will occur this time around, and that's really why. You also have YouGov, New York Times, Siena College, one of the better pollsters as of 2024, showing Stein landslide. I don't think it's going to be by a safe margin or likely deep by that margin. I think it's going to be narrowly. It could be easily be lean deep, but I think it's going to be likely deep by 5 to 7% for Josh Stein. I think Mark Robinson is really kicking the bucket from all the statements, all the stuff he said, and he's just disengaging too many voters in the same way that, we've seen Kerry Lake do those, I don't want to call him like Mastriano, but, he could be doing better with independents, and I wouldn't be surprised if he sinks at Donald Trump a bit in the presidential level, but I don't think Trump loses North Carolina, and that's another thing. I'm also making this video because DNC is this week or the following week, because I'm uploading this almost at midnight on Sunday, or making this on Sunday evening, and a lot can happen in the presidential level, so let's just focus on this. And lastly, for the closest race by far has to be New Hampshire. So you got the state that already has a Republican governor, Chris Sununu, but MAGAs and Trumplicans, they hate him quite a lot, don't forget, because of the things that he's done that could have benefited the GOP in some ways. I think it was it redistricting or like endorsing candidates that could have helped the GOP and that sort of thing. So that's why they don't really like him. And he decided, because of all of that toxicity, I can't say that word, sorry. Because of that, but whatever, he's not running. And you actually have a really good GOP candidate, Kelly Ayo, who used to be a senator actually from the state. She's not really extremely Trumpy, but she's not either way Phil Scott. She's not a moderate, or I should say a center, or an old school conservative in that manner. You also got Chuck Morris, who is really her main opponent, and I wouldn't be surprised if Trump maybe endorses Morris, but he might not endorse anyone here. He might, who knows, might endorse Staples or someone else. Imagine if he endorses Staples. But yeah, you got undecided voters here, while the Democrat fields basically, I think Joyce Craig is the main one leading right now. And she's the mayor of Manchester, and she's getting the most ad spending from what I've seen. And this race is extremely close. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, and this is really the main reason why, if Harris really does terribly on the presidential level, she could sink the Democrats by a decent margin in the state, and that could lead to the GOP winning here by a lean margin in the governor level. Let me check real quick if there's anything else. There's also Poly Market, by the way. I should have mentioned this before. Almost forgot, but yeah, the main ones was North Carolina, 85% chance that they see Democrats will win here. And here's the other ones, by the way. Here's New Hampshire and betting markets, the Poly Market things. Democrats narrowly edge out the Republicans, of course, but extremely close, and I agree with that. And there we go. Let's see, no polling on 538. But yeah, as I was saying, in my opinion, if Kelly Ayo is a nominee, I think Republicans keep the governorship in New Hampshire, and she becomes the governor of the state. But Chuck Morris, I don't think he has the charisma, and I would see the Democrats, most likely Craig, winning here by a till margin. But as of now, I think the national environment would help lead towards a Kelly Ayo victory and a return to politics. But yeah, it's extremely close. I could see anyone winning here. As you can see, this is my governor map as of now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how your map is, and if there's anything else you want to see in the future, leave a comment, like and subscribe, and have a good one.